Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming along this evening for tonight's AGM lecture. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome our guest speaker tonight. We're joined by Dr. Julia Wagemann, who is a well-known voice in the global geospatial community. She's an Earth observation specialist, educator, and importantly, a passionate community builder. Over the past decade, she's worked right across the geospatial and Earth observation sector, including roles within organisations like ECM, WF, and ESA. And I've just realised that they're acronyms, and I should have really told you what those acronyms meant. And now as a consultant, helping people and organisations get the most out of geospatial data. But alongside all of that, Julia is perhaps best known as the driving force behind Women Plus in Geospatial, whom the BCS have recently signed a new MOU with, which she founded to address something many of us will recognise, the feeling that not everyone sees themselves represented in our industry and that not everyone has equal access to opportunity. So it's a great organisation. They're a global multi-award winning professional network, and they're focused on improving diversity and inclusion across our field. Their mission is to inspire, unite and empower Women Plus in Geospatial to become strong change makers and to help build a community where people of all genders can thrive. Julia's been instrumental in growing this from a grassroots idea into a global movement that brings together thousands of people across the world who are helping to shape a more inclusive geospatial profession. And that brings us perfectly to the focus of her talk this evening, called Who Makes the Map? Diversity, Power and the Future of Geospatial. And it's a title that really gets to the heart of what we do. So it's not just how we map the world, but who is involved in that process, whose perspectives shape the outputs, and ultimately how those decisions influence the stories we tell and the world we help to create. And before I hand over to Julia, if you do have a question, feel free to pop it into the chat, and I'm more than happy to ask Julia the question at the end, or you can come off camera after Julia's finished presenting and unmute, and you can ask Julia the question yourself. It's entirely up to you. All we ask is that if you can, keep your cameras off and keep yourself muted while Julia's talking. That would be really, really appreciated. So Julia, look, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you so much, Paul. And also welcome from my side. I'm really happy to be able to be with you all tonight. And as Paul already mentioned, Women Plus in Geospatial and the British Cartographic Society just signed recently a memorandum of understanding. And so it has even more value tonight to be with you and to share with you about the story of Women Plus in Geospatial, and also on how we where we came from, and also like where we see us going in the next years and in the future. So I will start. I prepared us a few slides, and I will just start sharing my screen. So as Paul already said, so for the next around 30 to 35 minutes, I'd like to take you a bit on a journey and thought process as well, because we all probably are kind of map makers in our hearts, but certainly we also trained map makers, even though we might not doing maps every day now in our day-to-day work, but still it's very close to our heart. And again, I would like to take you on a journey on thinking again, like, okay, what does it actually take to take a map and or to do a map, and also what decisions go into the map making process. And because map making, when I prepared the talk, actually also has a lot to do with how we see our surrounding, how we see the reality, and then basically there's always a translation process in what comes to the map, and also what features do we want to highlight, what features do we want to leave out. And I think this is also important to think about on, okay, how is our reality, how is our society shaped, more importantly our industry, what features are maybe overrepresented, and also what features are maybe under the radar and we actually don't notice that they are under radar. So with that, I'd like to give you a bit of a background. Paul already mentioned a bit of like my professional background, but more importantly, and I also see tonight's lecture not only from the professional context, but really also who I am beside or beyond the professional or my profession. So at heart, I'm a geographer. I studied geography in Germany, and this is also how I got introduced to anything related to geospatial. I grew up in a very small village with 10 houses in rural Germany. And probably when I think back, this is also one of the traits that I took from growing up in a very rural area, to question from a very early beginning my surroundings and asking, okay, is there something more, and if yes, how can I get more, or how can I find new opportunities? Growing up until about when I was 18, I grew up in this very small village in rural Germany. But since then, I asked quite often, okay, is there something else out there? And so I had also the opportunity to work and live in 7 countries on 4 continents. I'm also now based in Rome, in Italy. So I'm not living in Germany at the moment. One of the highlights in the past years was also that I had a chance to travel to Antarctica in 2023. So the picture is also me on the Antarctica main continent. I'm also a mom of an 8-year-old daughter, and this is definitely also shaping a lot my personality, but also my thinking with a new way. Because before I had a daughter, I was always an ambassador for diversity, and also I founded Women Plus in Geospatial. But with my daughter and trying to also see it from her eyes, I get to learn and experience a new perspective, and also sometimes being optimistic, but sometimes also like seeing, okay, I'm not sure if we will be able to have solved everything when she joins, or when she starts working and starts a job. My credo, what I already said, is that basically for tonight, but in general, I like to invite everyone to challenge the status quo. Because when I said, like, I grew up in rural Germany, and the type of school I did was actually, in Germany, we have like this very layered school system. And so I was in a school where they actually told everyone, you can't go to university, you're not capable, and you should rather go the vocational training route, but you will not do your A levels. And when I then graduated from that school, I asked a fellow graduate what she would like to do in her life. And then she was basically giving me these 2 options. She was saying, okay, I don't want to go in an office, and I don't want to work in an office. So what else is there than going to work as a nurse in a hospital? And so this perspective, I think, shaped quite well my perspective and approach in life, because I looked at her and I think, okay, there must be, and hopefully there are more things than being in an office and also or working in a hospital. And if I wouldn't have asked this question, and if I wouldn't have challenged the status quo and only these 2 options available, I would have never also experienced or got introduced to geospatial. So I'm quite happy to to have done it. So about today, as I already mentioned, I also want all of us to challenge a bit the status quo. And while I take you on a journey from Women Plus and Geospatial, also thinking or invite you to think about on, okay, how is your work situation? How is your team composed of what and who is represented in our industry? Who are the people, or who is the group you mostly interact with? Who gets maybe at work featured and who is left out? Is there always one or two people speaking up, and others stay more listening? Do some voices overshadow others? These are important questions which we all or invite everyone to think about while I go through this talk. But not only today, but also taking forward. These questions are always good to keep in the back of your mind while being in your day-to-day work. All right. As Paul already mentioned, we're really glad to have a memorandum of understanding with the British Cartographic Society, and we really hope and look forward to many fruitful collaborations because we really see that we have shared values, and we also see that through collaboration we are just stronger together. And so that's we already started last week at Geo Business in London. We could have we had a panel discussion together where also Claire Selden was a panelist, and and so I'm very happy to be here with you all tonight. So Paul already introduced Women Plus in Geospatial. So what it is, besides the maybe very long name, is we are a global professional network to promote diversity and gender equality in the geospatial industry and academia. We are a growing community, but with the vision to really forge a geospatial community and industry where all genders can thrive. So we want, through our activities, help specifically women plus in the industry to get inspired, to get united, and also to get empowered to become strong leaders and change makers. Along the way, so we were founded in 2019. Along the way, in the last years, we also could collect a few awards from Geovation, but also from the World Geospatial Industry Council, specifically championing diversity and gender equality in the industry. But the question is, how did it start? So we are now in 2026, and it's now like if you go on LinkedIn, we are very strong following, and it looks all shiny. But the question is like, okay, how did it start? And I'm happy to take you a bit on the founding story and also growth of Women Plus in Geospatial, and maybe also, with each growth, there's also pain points along the way often, not only successes, but also pain points. So it all started in 2019, one day before International Women's Day. At that time, Twitter was still a big thing, and actually a really nice platform to be involved in. And specifically with Geospatial, it was really nice to be connected and also to see all the developments going on. And so I did a tweet on Twitter asking like who would be interested, like which women plus working in GIS, Earth observation, mapping would be interested in forming a group together where we can share advice and come together and network. And so within 2 days, we had over 300 women expressing interest being part of such a group. And and then in the coming months, we basically set up mailing list and also a Slack space at that time to cater for this interest and also to bring everyone together. In the following month, I also met now the co-founder and also co-director Sabrina Sito. She was also like a strong collaborator from the beginning, and she also is still a strong collaborator. And since then, we've done many of the growth steps and together. So we started really in 2019 as a grassroots movement. Then COVID hit in 2020, and for an online community, this was actually really a blessing, because we had like a strong growth, and after COVID we already had more than 2,000 women in the community, where we then at some point after COVID we came to the question, well, okay, there's definitely interest, but also like we are not really grassroots anymore. And so what is the way forward? And also like, what are options? And we then decided to register Women Plus in Geospatial in the UK as a community interest company. So since 2021, we are also a legal entity, which gives us an important legal basis to also operate our activities on. And then within another 2 to 3 years, by end of 2024, we had the community grew to 5,500 members coming from 149 countries. Along the way, like probably many of you can also already imagine, from grassroots movement, then having a lot of activities, getting registered, but then also still the community grows. We also outgrew some of the technical systems, like Slack wasn't a practical solution anymore for like a very vibrant community, and more importantly also like it was just too expensive for a community with 5,500 members. So we also decided to migrate to a new platform, and which we did last year, and since then basically operating on that new platform, but also having a strong outward facing push. So everything you might know us from LinkedIn, you see also all the activities and kind of advocacy we do around diversity and gender equality in the industry. So what do we do besides community building? So Paul already also mentioned that all our activities are aligned with our 3 core values, which are inspire, unite, and empower. So any member, but also from the outside, anyone who is interested in Women Plus and Geospatial, we want to inspire, unite, and empower. And we do this with a set of different activities. So inspire is anything you see mostly from us on LinkedIn. So we have a very strong presence there. We have around 45,000 followers. We also run a newsletter which has around 23,000 subscribers. In this newsletter, you see it here on the bottom left. It's called Open Jobs in Geospatial. It's a weekly wrap-up of career opportunities in geospatial. The way how it works is that people tag us. So if they see a job in the geospatial industry, they tag us, and every job that is tagged, we bring up into a weekly wrap-up of career opportunities. So if you all also are either hiring, or you will hire, or you're in an organization and you would like to spread the word of open jobs, then please help us also to feed this newsletter, tag Women Plus and Geospatial, and then it will come in the weekly wrap up. We also do another set of some other campaigns. So one is the community spotlight. So one of our key volunteers was just highlighted last week, Kristen O'Shear. She is like the Unite pillar lead. But it's also like to just showcase trajectories and women behind in the industry and who are part of the community. What are they doing? What values they working on, and also what they are inspired on. And the same is, so we have these community spotlights, and then we also have a series which is called Women Plus in Geo Rising. And this is more like for early career opportunities. So if there are graduate opportunities or PhDs and postdoc, then this year, then we will highlight all these posts in this series. Then we also run events, specifically also like on more like thought leadership topics, relevant also for our community members. So like one topic that is absolutely relevant for anyone probably of us is like thinking, okay, how is the industry changing with AI? But more importantly also, okay, how is our profession changing? And okay, what skills will be relevant? And so since last year, we have very successful collaboration also with GeoBusiness. They gave us last year an opportunity to have a stand at their in-person conference. And this was a really nice kickoff. And then we also had an opportunity to host a online webinar as part of their virtual conference last October. And we had a online webinar with the title Thriving as a Geospatial Professional in the Age of AI, which was like highly well recognized. We had more than 600 people registered, and more than 200 people then really also joined the online webinar. And also last week in London, we had another opportunity to have 2 panel discussions, and you see here pictures. One panel discussion was again on that topic on, okay, what skills are relevant with AI also creeping into the industry. And the other panel discussion was more on, like, okay, how does AI shape our industry, and what biases will AI maybe make worse, or maybe we can also see it as an opportunity to actually get rid of some of the biases. But then, if so, how can we as an industry do it? So so we do basically, we run LinkedIn outreach and also events online, but also more and more in person. Then we do community building. Here we really put a focus on global networking and giving Women Plus a safe space in the industry to connect with like-minded women, to also attend career development webinars. So we also have frequently joining experts from the industry. They share their advice or their specific skills. So for example, we had someone, or we working for several years, we've been working together with a coach who also comes from the geospatial industry and who gave already career guidance webinars, or we had webinars on public speaking, so like on many of the soft skills. Important, it is a safe space, so it's the community is really only for Women Plus, so that we can also feel safe and we can share our experiences. We can look for career guidance, career advice, but also only just networking with women from 149 countries. It is free to join, so this is also one important decision we did from the beginning, that we want to be accessible. So we don't want to put a paywall to actually join the community. So it is free to join. So it doesn't matter from what geographical area you're coming, everyone is welcome to join. As I already mentioned, so the community is at the moment has 5,500 members from almost global 149 countries, but with a strong geographic focus from the UK, wider Europe, and then also the US. Besides the community, one of our flagship programs is the mentorship program. This is a year-long program that runs every year from October to June. And this is like since the beginning. So Sabrina actually started the first cohort of the mentorship program, and it is now just wrapping up its 7th cohort. And we have since its inception, over 600 participants who successfully did go through the program. And we can accept every year around 100 participants. However, there's a strong and high demand for mentorship because every year we have 4 times as many applicants as we can accept. And so this program is, it's really high in demand. It is online, and it is really a program where you get matched with either a peer-to-peer mentorship group or with a mentor-mentee relationship, depending on also what goals you set. Because when you apply, you also have to tell us what you are interested in what do you want to develop in the next year. So we really take the selection process quite serious to make sure that we only accept participants who are really serious about learning and developing either professionally or learning a technical skill, and then really making sure we match with others who have a similar interest. For the mentorship program, we also accept men and women. So we also have this year 6 male mentors in the program, and we're always looking for experienced mentors. And maybe I also not say experienced, because then some people might say, "Oh, I'm not experienced enough." It's like if you have I would say 5+ more working years, then it's really you could be eligible, and you can really give guidance to someone who is just starting out. And so this is something, if you have every month an hour spare, really also I would invite this group tonight to consider maybe signing up as a mentor, because we always have more interest in being mentored compared to mentors who said, yes, I'm ready to also give back my experience. And then so on one side, we are putting a strong focus on building a community for women plus. But at the same time, in the last years, we also realized that we really want to work with the industry and with organizations and companies to really, partner and have and share the same values and collaborate together to push for a more diverse community. And so we're really proud to have many high-profile sponsors and partners who really support us in our mission and share the same values. And we just recently, as I said, British Cartographic Society, we signed a memorandum of understanding, but also companies like Up42 and Here Technologies and Spark Geo, they just recently or this year partners and supporters. How we work with partners and organizations, it's really different. So, and it's often that we start with a conversation and then really interested in finding a mutual interest so that the collaboration and the partnership benefits both sides. So one example with Amazon Web Services, we were a partner of the Gen AI for Geospatial EMEA challenge, which ran from October and is just about to wrap up in June. And there were like, this was a bigger challenge or outreach activity, and Women Plus in Geospatial was the media campaign partner for it. We also support some of our sponsors with recruitment and diverse hiring. So, for example, one example, what I shared with the Open Jobs in newsletter. So, if there is a company who has, if one of our sponsors has open roles, we then specifically highlight these open roles in the newsletter to really make sure that people get notified about these open roles, and then also are working together with partners to see that we can also track the interest in these roles coming from the Open Jobs in newsletter. And we also, like last week, so we also join in events and webinars and tell discussions. So one of the panels, it was like, or both panels was like with our partners discussing important topics on the future of geospatial. Saying that, so like tonight you see my face, but I couldn't say anything about like our activities and achievements without actually a bigger community behind. So besides like the global and the bigger community, also the team of volunteers is already like a smaller community in itself. And here I just highlight a few of the big volunteers, but we are more or less around 50 volunteers dedicating on different aspects of Women Plus and Geospatial their time, several hours a week, and to really make the community strong and as active and as engaging as what you also all see from the outside. So a big shout out to all the volunteers. Also here, if you're interested in volunteering, or if you also have colleagues in your organizations or companies who you think might be interested, then feel free to forward them also our information. We always looking forward to, or we always look for engaged volunteers, and because we also see this as a great opportunity to learn important leadership skills that can then also volunteers can take back into their professional work, and ideally also get maybe promoted or find or also develop their career development and trajectory. So we had also several volunteers who already also benefited of being part as a volunteer in Women Plus and Geospatial. So the question remains now, okay, what's next? So I shared with you now, okay, where we came from, where we are today. But where do we see us in maybe the next 2, 3, 5 years? And with this, I would also like start a collaboration with all of us tonight. And I invite all of you that we could also think of how we can redraw the map of our industry together. And because there are a few important topics that we as the industry can't ignore, and will have a tremendous impact on our industry. So I was just at Geo Business last year, and there were like two topics that were like, for me, felt like they kind of omnipresent. Of course, AI. So AI was in every discussion and every session. But another topic that was like not only like one session, but there were several sessions, and also it popped up in many more discussions, was about the growing talent gap, and also the challenge to find uh, talent, also younger graduates. So that like also I learned in the UK that many geography departments are closing, and the question is now, okay, how do younger people actually join the geospatial industry? And at the same time, on the other side, there is like a growing demand in geospatial and spatial thinking, also in like interconnected thinking. And so there is definitely a talent gap. And so if we think of, on one hand, there's like already a shortage in skilled workers, then there will be also many workers retire in the next 10 to 15 years. And then we also lose talent because some people, some don't think or have the feeling they don't belong, or they don't feel welcome. This we can't actually afford as an industry. So so this is really an important aspect to think of that. And at the same time, it's also an opportunity to really think about how can we be very welcoming, but also how can we retain talent in the industry. And it doesn't depend on like which gender or where people come from. So we really can't afford to lose talent. Another aspect which we discussed in one of the panel discussions last week was, okay, how will AI well, is it a risk or is it a chance? So we have existing biases, and if we just leave it like this, these biases, AI will likely amplify. And this is also a situation where we as a community or industry have to act now, because if we continue to feed AI biased data, then these biases will only be amplified. And this is an opportunity at the moment also for us to act, and maybe also to get rid of or to at least reduce some of the biases we encounter in our industry. And then I'd like to remind everyone tonight as well that we are despite AI, and we talk about AI and cloud and many technological advances, we are still all map makers of our own surroundings day to day. So we are all human beings. We are social animals. We want to interact with other human beings. And so we are part of the map. And so we all have a stance, and we are agents of deciding also on who could be part of our surrounding and who should be part of our map that is in front of you or in front of us. So with that, I'd like to wrap up, and would like to start or invite everyone to think also like on in your own environment and also in your map where you act on every day. Look at your own team at work. So is it diverse? Does everyone have the same opportunity to speak up, to express their ideas? Is everyone heard? Also, listen differently in meetings. So not only always listen to maybe the same person. If there is a few people in the meeting who hardly say something, then also invite them to express their ideas. and also don't judge, and just be open and make sure that everyone has a voice, and also have an opportunity to speak and express their ideas. Also, this is definitely when we are talking with organizations, examine your recruitment process. So many organizations, they tell us, yeah, we would like to hire more diversely, but we already don't get we don't get enough diverse candidates in the application pool. But then this is also biased. So then you would need to think of, okay, why is the pool not diverse? Do you maybe publish or promote it in specific channels where there is also already a bias? Or maybe you can also work on some of the language in the job applications, that it is maybe more inviting. So there's one study that says just having one sentence saying that if you don't qualify for all the requirements in the job advertisement, please apply anyway, because we always look out for new talent and new team members, and this often helps to increase the diverse pool by quite a few percent, because women often, if we think we don't qualify for all of the bullet points, then we don't apply. So there's definitely room also to see on, okay, what can be improved in the recruitment process. Make connections across difference. So also think about, if you we all, and including myself, we always want to be in our comfort zone, and it's often we look for people who maybe are similar than us, or look similar, act to say in a similar way, but also push yourself sometimes out of the comfort zone and try to connect with people looking different, or being different, or maybe also thinking different, and because this is often opens opportunities to learn and get different perspectives, and that also your thoughts and perspectives are challenged. Another point is coming back to the mentorship program. Share what you know. So everyone, as I said, even if you have 2 years of work experience, everyone has something to share, and everyone can be a mentor in any in an area. And so start, and also make it as a habit to share what you know, to bring people with you, to mentor younger, early career people, even maybe also to sponsor. And then this coming back to the bullet point before, not only the people who are maybe similar than you, but also like people who are different, but where you also see potential. And then more importantly, also spread the word. So you could already help us, like talking about Women Plus in Geospatial. If you have female colleagues you think might be interested to join, please help us to spread the word. But also, more importantly, raising awareness that there are biases, and our map and our perspectives are distorted and skewed, and share this with others, and also think about okay, who is actually not featured on our map yet, and how can we all personally in our data-aid interactions, how can we make sure our map is better represented, less distorted, and more features have room to also exist on the map. And with that, I'd like to thank you all, and I'm happy to respond to any question if there is.
Wow, thanks, Julia. That was so insightful, and I think there's a lot that we can certainly take away, both as people and as a society, from that. I kind of knew a lot of what Women in Geospatial did, and and it is like so much more than just a network of people. It almost feels like it's a movement, right? Which I'm sure you are really proud of because it's grown unbelievably, right?
Yeah, but probably I always have a bit difficulties to say that basically, okay, I'm proud of something. It's definitely, so we've been discussing this a lot over the years because there was, what I mentioned, there were several phases from like a grassroots. At the beginning, it was like just fun. I also haven't had a family yet, so it was like
Mm,
really engaging. And then it grew like from one step to the other where it also came to a point where like everyone like at that time it was also Olive Powell from the UK was quite heavily involved and Sabrina and myself,
yeah.
but we basically also said okay, this is like getting bigger and bigger, but we also have our full-time job, so we don't know like what to do with Women Plus in Geospatial. And it took yeah different steps. Now we're definitely sure that yeah it there's no way back, but it is always a challenge to also find room besides our professional lives as well. But we are definitely on a good track, and on looking back, yes, it's quite nice to see. It's really amazing on how you can yeah how something from like yeah just a tweet, how
Mm,
basically a movement can start. But at the same time it's like you can't plan something like this, so you start
no.
and then you also see how naturally things evolve and you adapt yeah from one way from one step to the other.
Yeah, yeah. I think my takeaway is it's great to see that there's this like supportive community that's opening doors for those that might not yet see geospatial as a place for them. There's a big part of how that's playing out, I think, and that's really good to see. But also, there's a lot for us to do where I think we can kind of help build on what you're trying to do, and I'm really keen to explore as a society how we might do that. Because I think from a partnership perspective, it's great that we can, I think we're stronger together. We can help support you and you can help support us. But I think there's a lot for us to definitely learn from what you're doing as well as a society to kind of A, help us, but then also B, think about what more we can do in support of your objectives as an organisation. So yeah, thank you so much, Julia, for coming along and talking about that. I found that really, really interesting. I've got a couple of questions, but I don't want to hog the limelight. So I want to give anyone else on the call the opportunity to ask you questions. If you do want to come off camera, anyone, and ask a question, you can do. Jeffro's got his hand up. Jeffro?
Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. That was really interesting. I was just wondering if you've ever done any sort of survey or of I'm on the membership committee and I'm the corporate liaison person, so deal with all the companies. And I was wondering whether, as Paul mentioned, like things we could do in partnership in terms of could we look at surveying all our corporate members just to get a bit of a knowing, right, say next year, this is how many people are working, in geospatial, what the diversity of it, and then maybe do another one in 4 or 5 years and just see what the trends are. Because I feel that a lot of the things we're just not really reacting to data, we're more reacting to what we're seeing, which is sort of data, but maybe it's good to start building up some sort of hard data that we can move forward with. And I was wondering if you've done anything like that before.
No, we thought about this, or like we've been discussing this. So like kind of this state of diversity in geospatial, and because there is really not much data. So there's like one study, but it's already from 2011 from a university in New Zealand, basically they surveyed women working in geospatial and asking about their career trajectories, and then they found out that quite a high percentage after 40 they actually left the industry, and there are like several reasons for it. But we'd be super interested in collaborating with you, and because for us so far, as I said, we just starting, but we don't have a big corporate company membership. So we always lack the access to organizations. And so, if there's a way on starting something and serving organizations and collecting data, and then doing this, as you said, like after every 5 years, and seeing if we go towards the right direction, we'd be super interested, and interested to discuss and see how we can work together on that.
Yeah, and I think it would also be interesting to us anyway to get a bit more insight into our corporate members as well, and seeing, so both, it would probably interest both BCS and you, and potentially if we got AGI and IMEA involved as well, there might be a few partner organizations that we can sort of almost do help with this, or help drive that survey. So yeah, we'll have a think about that. That's fine.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah, good question, Jeffrey. Julia, Claire Selden has asked if you could share the last slide, in the previous one to this one.
This one?
Yeah, I think Claire was going to share it via social. That's okay. I think that's the one, Claire, was that right?
Perfect, thank you so much.
Perfect. Cool. Before I ask my question or questions, was there anyone else that wanted to come off? Seppi.
I just pick myself up. Yeah, a fascinating talk, inspiring what you're doing. I've just got a question really about where do you think there's an opportunity for something similar or parallel or in association with that could be done to address the racial imbalance in geospatial? Because in the UK, my perception is that that's even worse than the gender imbalance.
Absolutely. So when we talk about diversity, so like we always say, like diversity is much more than only gender. But yeah, our name says that, okay, we specifically focus on gender. There has been, and I don't get a name now, but there has been, and I don't know if they're still active, but like a few years ago when we also just started, there was like a university graduate who specifically started an organization to bring more racial diversity into the picture and into geography departments in the UK. But I would need to look up that organization, and but they were quite successful also in building up community, at least from different backgrounds, so that people could also exchange and engage across different university departments.
It's quite interesting that I was a lecturer for a while, and the number of people that subsequently I've spoken to who say there is no career in geography. There's no money to be made in geography. I don't want my children going down that route. I want them to be doctors, and that particularly applies to certain ethnic communities. And I wonder how we overcome that barrier, because it's a huge barrier in certain areas.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, because it was a bit similar also, like in Germany, like when I started geography, it was like people always ask you, okay, what do you do with geography? It's because it's probably more like, it's also like a lot of jobs which are not easily tangible to describe. So like I basically, sometimes I'm in discussions, and when you ask like, okay, like do do people in your family, do they actually know what you're doing? And if they like not in geospatial or like not in geography, then it's getting a bit longer to describe and discuss what we actually all do. And so then a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher is just something people have experienced. But definitely I think we could also think of other, because there's also other areas in the working world who are also not on the radar of like everyone who experienced already a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher. But still they choose a career in finance or in marketing. So we could maybe also see how they promote professions and see if we can actually learn from them. But I agree, it's not easy, and probably it's coming back to like a lot of discussions we also have, like spatial is special, and so it also starts with like our professions, like trying to explain what we all do. It's not always that easy, or it's not cannot be put in one sentence.
Actually, not. My mum never understood what I did. So.
Thanks, Epi. I think, but we probably, if okay with you, Julia, we've got one more question from Bob, if that's okay. Bob?
Yeah, can you hear me? Because I didn't. If that's okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Julia, wonderful talk, brilliant. There's a couple of things that I'm particularly interested in, and one is the fact that you can run this enormous organisation and all the events you put on with only 50 volunteers. Secondly, the fact that you're represented across 149 countries, absolutely brilliant. The question, therefore, is to what extent, irrespective in a way of geospatial, do you and the members really benefit from the interrelationships between 149 countries in a world where we need to understand each other? And the second question in relation to that is, to what extent are your members represented by a huge number of different industries and professions and all the rest of it, and not just seeing themselves as geospatial, but people who represent the world's problems of climate change and everything else associated with it? Because we can sometimes be inward looking, and the fact of climate change and all of these other things that we need to resolve can be helped by mapping, by geospatial experts, but we need to look across all these different industries and make use of that in that way, notwithstanding obviously what I said about representing 149 countries, which is absolutely brilliant.
No, I couldn't agree more, and yeah, really good questions. So the first question was like about if the members really make use the network and they can benefit from like being connected to professionals in 149 countries. So what I mentioned is we migrated last year to like a more professional community platform, and so there's definitely activities from our side to foster this community engagement more, and also to learn from each other, and also understanding how things are done differently in different geographic contexts and backgrounds. And then the other question more about like inward facing, like because now probably members, they join when they think they feel like geospatial, but there's many professions who maybe have touch points with geospatial, but they wouldn't consider themselves as part of geospatial. This is definitely something we are working at this year to also better understand like more in detail. So we currently survey our community as well, and also understanding on like what are really key activities they are interested in, and also like what are they really geospatial professionals working with spatial data, or do they have touch points? And then based on the results, we also will then think about on, okay, how can we promote our activities better and who could also benefit from it. But I agree that we, at the moment, probably it's more like naturally growing from anyone who has touch points or is following geospatial content. They will then come across Women Plus in Geospatial. And so we could definitely have also, or put more efforts into going into different industries and looking there also for members who would like to join.
Brilliant. Cheers, Bob. But Julia, we're 2 minutes over, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for staying on and hanging on to answer a few more questions. Thank you from me and everyone that was here tonight for a really fantastic, insightful talk. From a personal perspective, I think I'm really looking forward to establishing a really strong partnership between both our great organisations. So yeah, thank you for coming along today and giving up your time to talk to us. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you everyone on the call for staying on a few minutes past 8 o'clock to hear Julie's response to the last question. And that's it. So all I'd like to do is to thank you all again and have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much, Paul. And again, also we have the same interests, so really looking forward to collaborating and doing great things together.
Cheers, Julia. Thank you. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you both.